Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Well, good evening, everyone, and namaste. Welcome to our Wednesday evening reading and discussion of the book Realizing God, a collection of talks given by Swami Prabhavananda from the 1940s to the late 1960s, early 1970s. So this is one of his most substantive works in that it was gathered together and edited by his dear disciple Nalini, Edith Tipple. And so it is the best of what Swami Prabhavananda had to say on these particular topics for all of those decades. Our reader is Haima Naidu. Thank you so very much, Haima.
Thank you. You're welcome, Brother Shankara.
And if there is nothing that anyone would like to offer about their own personal spiritual experiences or any concern or question, Haima can begin the reading. Is there anything from anyone that needs to be discussed before we move on? All right, dear ones, thank you so very much for coming this evening. And Haima, tell us where we are in the book, and please read ahead.
Brother Shankara, last week I was out and I believe one person read, I forgot his name, Bhagavan Das read the Om. Did he finish the Om so I could start?
Oh, yes.
He did finish.
Om is finished, and we're ready to start the next one, which is something Shakti.
Brahman Shakti. That's where we should be starting. Right?
Yes.
Okay. That sounds great. Good evening and namaste, everybody. We are on page number 52. That is Realizing God. And I will begin to read. Brahman Shakti. Although there are different stages of unfoldment in the highest experience, Sri Ramakrishna used to say there is no difference. All jackals in their highest pitch have the same cry. Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, or Jew, anyone who reaches that ultimate truth is no longer Hindu or Christian or anything other than one who is established in God. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that everything, even the scriptures, the Vedas, the Bible, the Quran, have been defiled because they've been uttered by the lips of man. But there is one truth, the truth of God, that has never been defiled because it has never been uttered. It's like a dumb man trying to express the taste of some delicious food. He can only say, ah. Can I read this one more time, Brother Shankara?
Please, yes.
It's very profound. Brahman Shakti. Although there are different stages of unfoldment in the highest experience, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, there is no difference. All jackals in their highest pitch have the same cry. Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, or Jew, anyone who reaches that ultimate truth is no longer Hindu or Christian or anything other than one who is established in God. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that everything, even the scriptures, the Vedas, the Bible, the Quran, have been defiled because they have been uttered by the lips of man, but that there is one truth, the truth of God, that has never been defiled because it has never been uttered. It's like a dumb man trying to express the taste of some delicious food. He can only say, ha. Then again, Sri Ramakrishna said that in one ocean of existence, knowledge and bliss, there is a stick which divides it. The stick is the sense of ego. You enjoy the bliss of God. You love to talk about God with his devotees. And then God becomes known, not only as impersonal, but as personal. There is this creation, and God is the creator. But then again, where there is no creation, God is the impersonal. When coming back to your consciousness, you see this universe, then you see God as a personal being. He is the creator. It's not that the impersonal being is one thing and the personal being another. It is the same reality. When there is no movement, no creation, that is impersonal. When there is movement, when there is creation, that is personal. Shakti or power is one with Brahman. When it becomes active, then there is creation. When the power is inactive, one with Brahman, it is the absolute, the impersonal reality. Sri Ramakrishna said, the primordial power, Shakti, is ever at play creating, preserving, and destroying. This power is called Kali. Kali is verily Brahman, and Brahman is verily Kali. It is one and the same reality. When we think of it as inactive, that is to say, not engaged in the act of creation, preservation, and destruction, then we call it Brahman. But when it engages in these activities, then we call it Kali or Shakti. The reality is one and the same. The difference is in name and form. It is like water called in different languages by different names, such as gel, pani, water, and so forth. In the same way, some address the reality as Allah, some as God, some as Brahman, some as Kali, and others by such names as Rama, Jesus, Durga, Hari. From a philosophical standpoint, Brahman and Shakti, the mother power, are inseparable. When there is no stir, no movement, no creation, then it is called Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without attributes. You cannot say that he is good or he is love. He has so many qualities, and yet he is attributeless. Then again, This universe is an emanation from the mother power. Then he, she, God becomes Sadguna Brahman. God with attributes, that is, God with attributes. God with attributes is known philosophically as the personal God, and that is also known as Mother. All forms, the many forms of gods and goddesses, emanate from that Mother. The divine incarnation, a Christ or Krishna, a Ramakrishna, are all emanations of the Divine Mother. And those forms are also eternal. Today, the Christ form is existing. You can see him. Ramakrishna is living. You can see him. Krishna is living. You can see him. And if you see him, it is the same as seeing Brahman. The eternal mother is described in the scripture this way. In the beginning of a cycle of creation, when there is neither moon nor sun, nor planets nor earth, but only darkness enveloped in darkness, there is Mother alone, formless, the eternal consort of the absolute Brahman. This Mother is the Shakti power composed of three gunas, bundles of energy. When they are at rest in harmony, there is no creation. When there is disharmony, then the universe emerges. The universe of mind and matter composed of these three gunas, Mother. An individual remains subject to them, and that is bondage. So we have to propitiate Mother, as it were, to free us from the bondage of the gunas. We have to transcend them. Sri Ramakrishna used to give the illustration. Mother gives dolls to children, and the children get busy playing with the dolls. But any one of these children gives up the dolls and cries for Mother, Mother comes immediately and takes the child on her lap. Similarly, this whole creation is all the playthings of life, and we're busy playing with the dolls. When you become tired, you have to go through experience, then get tired when you see the vanity of everything and come to this understanding that we read in the Bible. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity except to love God. Then we cry for Mother, then we cry for God. I will tell you this. None of us can have any conception of God. We conceive of God personal and God impersonal and speak philosophically. Brahman, associated with the universal Maya, is known as the personal God. That is, he who creates, who preserves, and in whom this universe is dissolved. And when we consider Brahman as Brahman itself, then it is impersonal. These are mere words. It's only when we realize, when we experience God, that we know that He's personal, He's impersonal, He's with attributes, He's without attributes, and He is beyond. His name is silence. A person who has experienced God will never describe Him as this and not that. But what can we do in our ignorance? It does not matter. Your conception is true to you. It is the reading of that reality with your limited concept, but you're reading the reality. It is said that Mother is composed of three gunas, are bundles of energy. At the same time, she transcends the gunas. You cannot define them, but you can tell them by their expressions. When the expression is of calmness, purity, tranquility, that is sattva. When there is passion, restlessness, activity, that is rajas. When there is lethargy and dullness, that is tamas. These three bundles of energy make up this universe of mind and matter. The mystic sees this energy as consciousness. Mother has become everything. There are two aspects of mother. One that leads you to freedom, and another that leads you to bondage, to ignorance. The individual who identifies with these gunas does not see mother, does not know mother. But the moment when mother is known, there is the realization that she also is God who leads to freedom. Sri Krishna points out in the Gita how difficult it is, how hard to break through is this Maya made of the gunas. You see, it's God's Maya, Brahman's Maya. Mother and Brahman are inseparable. And it is this Maya, this mother, which has deluded us. Christ in the Lord's Prayer points out, lead us not into temptation. It's very difficult for a Christian mind, which has the devil to account for evil, to understand how Christ prays to God not to lead us into temptation. Yes, God is leading us into the temptations of this universe, His creation. Mother is tempting us. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that people are busy with God's creation, forgetting the Creator. That is the delusion, the bondage. Now again, if we can surrender ourselves, take refuge in Mother, take refuge in God, then we come out of this Maya, this ignorance easily. As Sri Krishna says, he who takes refuge in me only shall pass beyond Maya, he and no other. One of Sri Ramakrishna's gurus, from whom he learned the truth of non-dualistic Vedanta, was Totapuri. When Totapuri saw Sri Ramakrishna chanting the name of Mother and clapping his hands, he said, "Oh, you are preparing chapatis." He used to make fun of Sri Ramakrishna. But then one time he had a colic pain and could not control it. Other times he could take his mind away from his body. But this time he couldn't. So he said to himself, this body is a great obstacle. He went to drown himself in the river Ganges. But as he walked from one side of the river to the other, the water was not deep enough to drown him. He said, "What is this Maya?" Then he saw the divine mother's play and realized that without her power, no one can move even a finger. He came back a completely changed man. He went to Sri Ramakrishna and said, "Now I have recognized your mother." When Swami Vivekananda went to the temple of Mother Kali, he would call Sri Ramakrishna superstitious for bowing down to the image. Then Vivekananda's father, who had earned plenty of money, but had been so charitable that he gave it all away, died and there was nothing left. Vivekananda was a young man and wanted to earn a living to support his mother and two brothers, but he couldn't find a job. At long last, he came to Sri Ramakrishna and said, "Please do something. Pray to mother." Sri Ramakrishna said, "Why don't you go and ask mother yourself? Go to the temple, and I tell you, whatever you ask of her, she will grant you." So he proceeded to the temple of mother. As soon as he saw the image, it became living, conscious, full of bliss, and he was in ecstasy. All he prayed for was, "Mother, grant me love, grant me knowledge, grant me dispassion." When he came back, Sri Ramakrishna said, "Did you ask?" "I forgot." "Go again, but remember." Again he went, and the same thing happened. You know, when you have that experience, everything seems so trivial. You cannot think of triviality. Then the third time, Sri Ramakrishna said, "All right, I grant you that your people, your family will never starve." Then he pointed out the truth that Brahman and mother power are just like fire and heat. They cannot be separated. That is the end of Brahman and Shakti topic, Brother Shankara. Any purport from you and Mike?
Well, I think
Beautiful.
was ever any doubt in any of our minds about the fact that the power of being and the power of creation are identical, and that should have been dispelled by what's been said. This was a talk given by Swami Prabhavananda that was meant to offer us the understanding that the simple power of the Absolute, Satchidananda, Brahman, without attributes. Satchidananda are attributes, they're absolutes, absolute existence, absolute knowledge, absolute bliss. So we find that, as it said in the very beginning, all the jackals have the same cry when they're all crying at their highest level. So sages call truth by many names, but it's always the same truth. It doesn't matter whether you worship as any of the religions that Sri Ramakrishna mentioned, you will still be worshiping that one divine being. This is not possible for us to understand intellectually. We must make the effort to penetrate the apparent reality and come to know the underlying reality, which was referred to and has been referred to by mystics as long as there have been recorded instances of reference to it, as silence. Silence. When we turn within and we practice spiritual practices for enough time, we uncover. It's always there, that silence. And so we learn from that silence the truth of being, capital B, being. It's a verb, it's not a noun. And we find that we are part of that verb. We are being. We are being human. we are being human. And so being as human. So that's some words added on to what were already very successful words from here. Anything else from anyone? Any comment, question, concern? Anything at all? All right, dear, what is the next subject?
Next topic is the Kundalini.
The Kundalini.
Kundalini? Oh, yes, right. Kundalini.
The Kundalini.
Kundalini. You want me to move on, Brother Shankara?
Swami will adequately define this, so there's no need for me to say anything.
Okay. The Kundalini. What I'm going to speak about this morning is not theory or metaphysics, but simply a report of the experience of great illumined souls. Just as through the telescope of the astronomer, things invisible to the naked eye become visible. Spiritual truths unknown to ordinary individuals become visible when the divine sight opens. Religion is fundamentally the knowledge of the truth of God. In order that we can be really spiritual, we must participate in spiritual visions and experiences. Spiritual knowledge is knowledge that cannot be arrived at by argument or reason, by intellect, but is to be experienced by the purified heart. Religion remains mere talk, has no sense or meaning until we begin to have religious experiences. The gloom of darkness covering our vision does not lift by argument or reason. As we read in the Gita, what is night to ordinary individuals is day to illumined souls. What remains hidden from sight becomes revealed to the illumined soul. To be spiritual is to have that gloom of darkness and ignorance lifted so that we come face to face with the spiritual verities of life. Do you want me to read this paragraph one more time, Brother Shankara? No. Too much preaching about theories and beliefs and dogmas and doctrines has been done in the name of religion. This cannot help us until the ignorance that covers our sight is removed. Religion is knowledge, but not the knowledge that the intellect can give us. All spiritual illumination, all spiritual knowledge comes from within. Modern science tells us that infinite power exists in the minutest atom. It's not that there exists only a limited and finite power, but infinite power. A scientist who examines a drop of water will find the whole of the solar system existing in this minute object. What is in the universe outside of ourselves is also inside. Great illumined souls say that the seat of consciousness, which is contentless consciousness, and which is one with the infinite Brahman, is seated in the center of the brain. There has come forgetfulness of that consciousness, but they point out that there is a divine energy in every one of us which remains dormant. They call that the Kundalini, which literally means coiled up sleeping. When that becomes awakened and that energy becomes released, spiritual unfoldment follows. This coiled up energy is located at the base of the spine. And when it becomes unfolded, it passes through different spiritual realms, as it were, giving different visions and experiences. When it becomes united with the Brahman seated in the brain, there comes full illumination. For you to understand this, I have to explain the spiritual nerves and spiritual centers, which we technically call lotuses. We must remember that these nerves and centers, these lotuses, are not physical, but they have corresponding physical regions where they are located. They are vital centers of consciousness, only visible to the yogi side. When the divine sight opens, one can see them. If you dissect a human body, you will never find these nerves and centers. Just as by dissecting a human body, you will never find its soul. And yet they exist as tangible spiritual centers. To explain fully, there is the spinal column, where all the centers are located. In the spinal column is the central canal, and there are channels on either side, the left called Ida, the right called Pingala. The center is called Sushumna. There is no function in the central channel of the spine. Our life energy ordinarily flows through the channels on the right and left. Now, the life energy has to be made to flow through the central channel through the Sushumna. It's technically known as the doorway to Brahman. The moment any spiritual energy flows through that central channel, a new consciousness evolves, just as one who is blind might get physical sight, and so begin to experience the world in a new way. At the base of the spine is a triple knot of spiritual nerves forming a triangle, and within the triangle is the Kundalini, the coiled up energy. It looks like a serpent, as thin as the thread of a lotus stalk. This center at the base of the spine, the Mooladhara, is the seat of the subconscious mind. The next center is technically called Swadhisthana. It is situated at the root of the genitals and is said to be the seat of lust and greed. The lotus bud there has 6 petals. If the energy rises to this center, there comes to a degree the conquest of lust and greed. The next center, the Manipura, is situated at the root of the navel and has 10 petals. It is the seat of psychic power. As the energy rises to the center through the Sushumna, psychic visions and experiences and occult powers manifest. The next center is the center of the heart, which is technically called Anahata. But before I come to that, let me point out how most people's minds are within these 3 lower centers: worldliness, lust, physical enjoyment, and experience. Their minds are downward until there is an attempt to make the mind move upward. There can be no spiritual growth. You may go to the church, you may read, you may do good work, they may help you, but until there is an awakening of the higher centers, there can be no spiritual growth. All kinds of impulses are in us. If we say we have to satisfy these impulses because they are there, we remain in the animal, beastly plane. It is only by overcoming these impulses that there is any possibility of spiritual growth. We cannot even think of God as long as the mind remains within the lower centers of consciousness. If we think of God at all, God is accepted as a means to realize our selfish and personal ends and to attain our personal satisfaction in the physical plane. So the anahata is located in the heart. When the kundalini rises to the spiritual center, this is really the first spiritual center. One has the vision of spiritual life. There comes an illumination. Anahata literally means unstruck sound. Sound is produced by striking two objects, but as the mind is lifted up to this spiritual center, one can hear the spiritual sound, which is produced without striking two bodies. While one is in that spiritual center, there is the experience of a spiritual life, and one hears the cosmic word, the cosmic sound, Om. Here again, let me explain that this whole creation comes out of the thought of God. Thought and word are identical. If you study any philosophy, you will find this truth brought out, that the whole universe came out of the thought of God, and the thought and word are identical. Hindus claim that this word, Om, is the first word that arose after creation, that the whole creation proceeds from the word. Creation, then, is the kind of degeneration, and to rise above creation is to become regenerated. The creation is outgoing, it is degeneration, and regeneration is to go back to God. Now, in the process of going back to God, we trace, as it were, the same process by which there is creation. Creation proceeded from the sound Om, and regeneration begins with the sound Om. The next higher center at the throat is called the Vishuddha, which literally means purity. When the mind with the Kundalini comes to this center of spiritual consciousness, there is a complete regeneration, complete transformation. It is said that one, through spiritual struggles, may rise to the center in the heart, but there is always the possibility of being dragged down to the lower centers. But if the mind rises to this center called the Vishuddha, one becomes established in purity. Nothing, no worldliness can drag the aspirant down again. The outward sign is that the individual cannot think of anything but God, cannot speak of anything but God, cannot hear of anything but God. If somebody talks about worldly things, there comes a real physical pain. The next higher center called Ajna is between the eyebrows. Ajna literally means command. Here one attains what we technically call Savikalpa Samadhi. Through absorption, there comes the direct experience of God in his personal aspect, but there still remains a separation from God. Here one hears the voice of God with the command to give blessings to others. In other words, one really becomes a spiritual teacher. In the life of Sri Ramakrishna, we read how he would approach spiritual teachers and ask, have you ate the command of God? They didn't even understand what he meant. Some would say they have heard the voice of God asking them to go and teach. But whether it was the voice of God or ego, they did not know. But this is a direct command, a direct vision and communion. At one time, my master said he did not do anything without the will of God. I asked him, what do you mean by the will of God? The same way I or anybody can think and do something and then impute that to the will of God, one can very sincerely feel that he's doing something by the will of God. Most spiritual souls try to do that and try to wipe out their ego. But when I asked my master if that's what he meant, he said, no. I said, do you mean to say that you see him and he talks to you? He said, yes. A direct communion to see God, to talk to God is possible. When the mind comes to that spiritual center within the eyebrows, you have a direct communion with God. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that when the mind comes there, there is still this separation, still the ego left. I hear the will of God, I see him. But one feels like a moth before a fire. The fire is protected by a glass, and the moth beats and beats against that glass to jump into the fire. The same desire arises to beat against that separation and to attain to the highest center called the 1,000-petaled, the Sahasrara in the brain. There the Kundalini becomes united with Shiva, with Paramatman, the higher universal self. And there is complete union. That is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the absolute. When the mind rises to the highest center in the brain, there is no longer any vision or experience. There is the knowledge of union. To those who ask, do we lose our individuality? I ask, what do you think your individuality is? There is no answer to that. Simply say, what I am. But don't you lose what you are? Aren't you losing yourself with every growth that comes in you? In fact, we do not know our true individuality. When we reach that attainment, then is it that we know our individuality and we know that it is in the infinite. And that is the end of that particular topic, the Kundalini, Brother Shankara. We have 14 minutes left, and any comments, any purport from you or anyone else?
As I said, there would be no reason for me to add anything to what the Swami said. He defined the Kundalini.
Yes.
He defined its power in us and how it is the ground of being. Again, capital B as a verb. He mentioned the fact that our lives are normally spent with that Kundalini energy moving up and down through the Ida and Pingala centers. Current the Ida and Pingala channels, which are beside the spine, psychically, not so much physically. You won't find them if you cut into the spine. But you can tell when those Ida and Pingala are both open and you're functioning through both by seeing if both your nostrils are open. If both nostrils are open, then that is the energy that is going through you, that is producing your being at that moment. Again, we can always think that these are only explanations. These are only words that an illumined teacher is trying to impart to us so that we can understand something that is basically beyond our intellectual grasp. So we must meditate on these things. And when we do, when we actually meditate on these topics, by the grace of being itself, that which is meditated upon reveals itself. It is discovered. This is what Christ meant when he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be, and everything shall be revealed. All wisdom, all knowledge, all that is hidden, all that has been hidden, will be revealed." And so this is what we do when we seek the kingdom of God within us, which is the kingdom of the Atman or Brahman. Then all it becomes revealed. But it happens very slowly. So we have to be patient. We have to be diligent. We have to be daily in our practice. Any concern or question or thought from anyone? Anything at all from anyone? All right, dears, we have some minutes.
Yes.
So what is the next topic, dear?
Okay. Next topic is the practice of religion. Religion has to be made living. We must live the ideal that Christ lived. It's not only possible for a Christ to achieve that end, it is just as possible for every human being on earth. One time I asked an illumined soul, that is Swami Prabhavananda, what is religion? He answered, to make the lips and the mind one and the same. We achieve things, we work tremendously, we devote our whole lives to attaining something. And then what happens? We close our eyes for good. Then what do our achievements amount to? Nothing. If we do not strive to reach union with the Godhead in this very life, our existence is wasted away in the vanities of life. Vain is everything. But then everything takes on a new life, as it were, if we understand the goal and if we strive to reach that goal. What is good and what is evil? If any action makes you forget God, that action has no value. But if your activity helps you to unite with God, then that action is good. You see, the whole of life takes a new form. There comes an actual transformation. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, add zeros one after another and they're valueless. Put one first and the value increases. Life is empty and zero without that one.
And think about that metaphor.
Sure.
If you sit down and write on a piece of paper, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and keep on until we got 99 zeros. They still have no value. It adds to 0. But if you put a 1 in front of all of those 99 zeros, you immediately have 100. Normally we think of 100 in terms of 100%. So this is a very potent metaphor that Sri Ramakrishna is giving us about the zeros and the 1. The 1, of course, is the divine. The one divine being gives meaning to the whole of being, which is the 100%. Is that clear to everyone? Everyone makes sense of that?
It does.
Okay, dear, please read it over and then read
Sure.
out.
Okay. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, add zeros one after another and they're valueless. Put one first and the value increases. Life is empty and zero without that one. If you forget that one, if you forget that God, all your achievements and activities in life amount to nothing. People try to forget by getting intoxicated, but that forgetfulness does not last long. There is a beautiful aphorism in Patanjali: nature is for the soul, not the soul for nature. And there is a footnote here, Brother Shankara, for that. This is a quote from Swami Vivekananda's lecture titled The Secret of Work. Remember that great saying of the Sankhya: the whole of nature is for the soul, not the soul for nature. Swami Vivekananda said, the bee came to suck the honey, but its feet got stuck in the honey. Instead of enjoying this world, we are enjoyed by the world. My master used to say, they talk about enjoyment, but who can really enjoy this world? Can the brute enjoy the world? It's only a God that can enjoy life. Be a God, then only can you enjoy the world. An illumined soul does not run away from the world, but lives in the world and works for the good of all. Though living in the world, such a person is not of it. There is the illustration of a lotus leaf. You pour water on it, but the water cannot make that leaf wet. The lotus stays in water, but the water does not attach itself to the leaf. It is the same with the illumined soul. The Divine Mother Durga, the mother of the universe, has 2 children, Kartika and Ganesha. Kartika is outgoing and is the god of worldly success and prosperity. He is also the god of warriors. Ganesha is contemplative. His mind is inward, devoted to the Divine Mother. One day, the mother held a treasure, a necklace, before them and announced, "Whoever goes around the universe speedily and comes back to me first will receive this treasure of a necklace." Kartika immediately flew around the universe. Of course, he was confident that he was the one who would get the treasure. Ganesha took his time, slowly going around the mother and bowing down to her. Mother gave him that treasure of a necklace, and when Kartika came back, he saw Ganesha wearing the necklace. This legend is symbolic. Please remember that both of them are children of the Divine Mother. I would say that Kartika represents time and technology, and Ganesha represents religion or spiritual life. Kartika probes into the outer universe. Ganesha probes into the inner universe. Exemplars who probe the inner universe are not wanting. There have been great spiritual giants in every religion. They have cleared a path for us. We have only to follow it. Now, of course, in order to follow, we must know what the goal of life actually is. Is it the acceptance of certain dogmas, beliefs, and doctrines? Is it to go out and do something? Can we do good to the world only with our hands and feet? These are the things to consider. Brother Shankara, there is only 2 minutes. I can stop here.
I think that's a good thing to do.
Good stopping point, and you can give us some comments. And anyone else?
Well, I don't think there's anything to add.
Yes.
Swami is giving us, we're like beasts that need something to chew on. He's giving us the fodder to chew on, to nourish ourselves.
That's right.
And if we accept it in that spirit and do, as it said, there's Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. The hearing of these spiritual truths is the Shravana. It's up to us to then assimilate it, the Manana. So we must think it over. We must chew on it and then make it our own. Or not. It isn't, there's no imperative. There's no must, if you wish. So I think that's enough. We were given here in powerful form something that is truly transformative, not like being intoxicated. Anything else from anyone before I close?
There is a lot of information in this few topics we read right now, Brother Shankara.
Oh my goodness, yes.
What we have been discussing all along these last few years in at different times, all Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Savikalpa Samadhi, all are really put in a good way to describe everything here.
Well, we're listening to an illumined soul.
Yes,
Really,
very useful information for us for our practices, to deepen our practice, actually, deepen our meditation, to get to one step at a time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Anything at all?
I think this was very informative, and as you said, Brother Shankara, I have to do the Chintan and Manan on what I heard today.
Yes, exactly. We have to take it and make it our own. People would come to Sri Ramakrishna with these high spiritual ideas, and they would tell him all about their intellectual knowledge of these great spiritual ideas. And he would say, yes, but you have to assimilate this. Assimilate, what does it mean? It means make it your own through a kind of digestion. So thank you all for being with us this evening. Our next opportunity together will be on Saturday, when we will continue our reading and discussion of the book Divine Grace. And then, of course, there'll be a talk on Sunday. The topic of this talk on Sunday will be announced in this week's newsletter, which will come out tomorrow evening or Friday morning. So, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward, secure in the knowledge that that divine being who serves as our mother and father holds us in their loving and protective embrace. So that is the prayer and the wish from here, that be recognized. And may you all be well and in bright spirits.
And you too.
Thank you, dear. Good night.